Hi, I'm CharLee Simons, your host here on Do Not Talk, talking about two things you're never supposed to talk about, politics and religion. And I also talk about health and wellness, talk about radio and media in general, talk about a lot of things depending on the guest I have. Today, Arthur Schapper is back. Man, I like having this guy on. If you've seen him before, you know why. You're in for a treat if you've never seen him before. Arthur Schapper is an author, writer. He's with several different publications online and in print, and just a smart dude. I always like talking to smart people who are smarter than me. I always strive for that, which means that's a vast open field, isn't it? Now, a little self-deprecating humor. I also wanted to talk about the guy that got me kicked off YouTube. Yeah, I'm back on YouTube right now, but every time I mention his name, they yank the show, so I can't even say his name. Talking about health and wellness. There are certain foods that have vitamins in them that other foods do not. And these vitamins, if they're utilized and taken, they have tremendous health benefits and things that we're not supposed to talk about according to YouTube or Facebook or any of these other clowns. Why do they even care? The fact that I would be talking about the C word. And I'm not talking about Hillary Clinton. I'm talking about what used to be the C word. Whenever somebody would say that, yeah, he's got the big C. We all know what that meant, right? And it was like a death sentence. And the treatment was oftentimes worse than the infliction itself. Well, this man who I had on the show one time that got me kicked off YouTube, so I can't even say his name, introduced me to this. It's got properties in it, vitamins in it, but you don't get in other foods. So it seems like it'd be a good thing to be talking about something that can prevent you from getting a very terrible illness. Or if you do have it, stopping it. Wouldn't that be a benefit to everybody? Wouldn't you want to know more about that? Well, I did. So I went to rncstore.com/Lee. rncstore.com/LEE. That's my middle name, and you use my middle name as a promo code, going to get you some great savings. I wish I could tell you more about it. But we're live on YouTube right now, and I know they'll yank it. And I don't want you to miss Arthur Schapper. So please go and read for yourself and then decide. Don't let social media dictate what you can and can't hear about your health. RNC Store. rncstore.com/Lee. LEE. With Arthur Schapper today, we're going to be talking about this.
Colbert, whose show has been canceled for going so hard left and not allowing any other perspectives, he had Governor Baker on The Late Show and pressed him. Watch this.
If you're considering doing a little more redrawing in Illinois, you already have some crazy districts in Illinois. Take a look at this. Look at 17 here. It does that. Then it comes up here and it sneaks around there and goes all the way up here and then goes right over there like that. And look at this one, kind of goes whoop up there. It's like the stinger on a scorpion down here. Is this common for all states to do?
Well, we handed it over to a kindergarten class and let them decide.
Okay, and that's the nonpartisan group.
That's funny. Oh gosh, that's hilarious.
That's our independent commission, you know.
Here's how National Review summarized it. They said it was only 3 years ago that New York's legislature drew up a map so brazenly contemptuous of basic rules that govern a district's contiguousness that the state's dominated Court of Appeals threw it out. The New York Times at the time called those maps comically contorted. That's their quote. So your state's highest court at the time, all the judges appointed by Democratic governors, they threw the maps out. So fair to say Democrats have done what they're now accusing Republicans of doing.
No, we followed the rules. We do it every 10 years. We base
But
it
the
on
court
census.
said you didn't follow the rules.
Well, we did follow the rules.
So the court was wrong?
Well, we followed the rules.
Well, we did follow the rules, even though the Supreme Court said you didn't. But according to Hochul. So, did you notice something there, by the way, on that Shannon Bream report, how every time they mentioned Democrats, even Republicans, and redistricting, they had to block out the words that was on the screen, and they had to what's the other thing they did? I'm sorry, excuse me a second. Anyway, what I was saying, Shannon Bream, they blocked out Democrat and Republican and redistricting. And they blocked out the audio on it too, because YouTube would pull that down if they actually said the words or had the words appear on screen. That's scary as hell. Let's get Arthur Schapper in. Are you ready? Hit it. This is a sad state of affairs, my friend. You can't even put the words Democrat or Republican or redistricting on because it will get you taken down. This is really scary. This is like cover up COVID crap going on right now. And in the state of California, Governor Hairdo has been ramping up the battle against Texas being redistricted, having their lines redrawn according to the census, not according to some kind of special committee that like California has that we voted for, by the way.
Yes.
We voted for that. We put that into effect. That was Arnold Schwarzenegger who made that happen, thinking we would have fairer lines drawn and saying who's going to be who in what district. Yeah, that's why he's speaking out against it now. Schwarzenegger has been like pretty quiet on the whole dang political thing, period, except for taking pot shots at President Trump. But now he's saying he's going full on against Newsom and what Newsom's trying to do, which is to stop the very commission that we have in place right now that redrew the lines. What's going on with all of that? What you did a great article in Town Hall. I read about it, and that's when I thought, well, who better than have Arthur on and actually explain it?
You bet. Thanks again for having me on, CharLee. This redistricting battle, it's turning into a war. And I just had to laugh when you showed that segment of Governor Hochul there in New York, just lying to our faces. Oh, we did follow the rules. I mean, it was just laugh out loud ridiculous.
Weird.
Shannon Bream, she was just like calling her out on it, said, no, the court said that you didn't. And this is how brazen and how desperate they've become. They have to lie. Democrats have been premier when it comes to the gerrymandering scam. Look what happened there in Illinois. And it just the arrogance of Governor Pritzker there saying, well, we gave it to a kindergarten class and they drew it. It's like, wait a minute, this is an independent commission. Now, I don't know if it was a voter approved or a legislature approved commission, but it shows how these independent commissions aren't really independent at all. They're tipping their hands. They're twisting districts to ensure the greatest number of Democrats possible. Here in California, we have an independent commission, and it was voted in good faith by the people, as you said, by Governor Schwarzenegger introducing it, and yet still we're dealing with gerrymandered districts. I'm in the South Bay section of LA County. Initially in 2011, the district, it took a large part of the South Bay, and then it took Dockweiler Beach, a little thin strip of land, and then tied it to Santa Monica, Beverly Hills, and all the way up to Calabasas. It was a gerrymander of its own. One of the independent commissioners called it the ribbon of shame. This was supposed to be, it was already gerrymandered. And here we are with the second decade worth of independent commission drawn maps. And you look at Vince Fong's district, previously Kevin McCarthy's, and it's also gerrymandered. You see these two strips of land sticking out from the northern part of the district, and then it cups into another part with, near Bakersfield. That we still see gerrymandering of a really bad sort. What's happened is Democrats have gotten very good at getting fake Republicans onto that commission, but they're still Democrats, they're still liberals pushing these very badly drawn districts. Apparently, the California Globe, and I referenced this in my article, they've shown that there were private meetings off the record done by these commissioners when they were drawing the districts. They were breaking the law. They were trying to hide their efforts from the public. So Democrats are complete hypocrites on this. The New York maps were egregiously bad. They were so bad that, as the reporter pointed out, you had a Democrat, all Democrat Supreme Court, 4 of them to 3, but they struck down the very partisan maps and forced them to redraw them. I think how it works in New York State is legislature gets a shot after the commission brings forth a series of suggestions, and if that doesn't work, then the courts have to end up doing it. And this is a very long-standing process. When California's legislature did the drawing of the districts, it was in the 1970s and in the 1980s. It was very common. There would be a set of maps for the 72 or the 82 election. They would be challenged, and then they'd have to redraw them again to be a little more equitable and balanced. It happens all the time. But here's the deal. A legislature doing it actually makes it more accountable because we know who is doing the drawing and who votes on it. Independent commissions have no accountability. So I'm open to this discussion of just repealing it, letting it. Well, as far as we're concerned, we're slightly better off having an independent commission doing it in California since it's a supermajority Democrat legislature.
Slightly better, but who appoints who's on the commission, by the way?
That I'm not sure of at this point. I mean, you're like,
nobody seems to know. I've heard
I don't
some
know.
say,
I really
the
don't
governor
know.
who appoints them.
This is a big problem right there, but it's clearly not a fair process. So at any rate, I love what Governor Abbott is doing in Texas, and to see this spread to all the red states. I wrote about this at length. We're not only talking about red states growing a spine and pushing back on the gerrymandering efforts. What initiated this in Texas, I spoke with one of my close contacts there. Galveston County, they had to redraw their commission districts, and somebody sued them, said, well, you're not providing enough majority minority districts, whatever. A federal court ruled that they didn't have to. They struck down the majority minority requirements. And so that initiated the opportunity. The DOJ then said to the state of Texas, you know what, you don't need to abide by that anymore. You need to be providing race neutral districts, something to that effect. So Governor Abbott is stepping up. The Republican legislature, and it's not perfect. It's moved a little bit better to the right, but Dustin Burrows is still kind of a rhino. He's a little better than the previous speaker. The state Senate is excellent. Dan Patrick has always been a conservative champion, has loved Trump from the very beginning. They are moving forward on this, and they will succeed. I don't think that the Democrats can hold out forever, stalling a quorum. They weren't able to do it in 2023. They are going to fail this year.
Oh, yeah, this is not a first time that this has come up, and the Democrats literally flee the building.
Yep.
They leave the state. And then they've already been to California. We're talking about the Texas Democrats in the legislature have come to California and have had several press conferences with Nancy Pelosi and so on, talking about all the horrible things that they're trying to do in Texas. And one of the comments was from one of the representatives was the Republicans are trying to cut out the black people and the brown people.
Yeah. These and here's something I really explored at length. You look at it's like what 26 to 12, or it's 25 to 12, and there's an open seat right now because Sylvester Turner passed away. But you look at the Democrat districts, and they are extremely gerrymandered. You have like one little string connecting San Antonio to another blue city, for example. You have to gerrymander districts disregarding municipal, county boundaries, and even geographical boundaries in order to ensure these so-called majority minority districts. It's completely it's completely contrary to the interest of ensuring equitable districts. So the irony is, you ungerrymander, or race mandering, what I called it. We need to reverse that and go back to race neutral districts, which do respect those very simple common sense expectations. Keep communities of interest together, respect municipal, county boundaries, and geographical boundaries. There's a recent rule that's been shared, and I wrote about it, where if you're going to have a county district which is bigger, which incorporates more than one county, an entire county must be within the district, and then you can include parts of another county. That way, it minimizes or limits the attempts to gerrymander. If a district is larger, if the county is larger than, like LA County has like at least 10 congressional districts, right? The rule that I proposed was you can only incorporate a little bit of one other county. You can't have 3 counties or 4 if it's within a much larger county.
Right.
I think that's a way to minimize these problems. So
you explained in your article about gerrymandering, where that word comes from, where that term, the origination of it all. For anyone who doesn't know, it's not a good thing. It's a derogatory term. Explain that.
Yeah, so we're talking about in the early 1800s in Massachusetts, the Federalist Party was the dominant party, and that was true throughout all of New England in the early days of the Republic. The Democratic Republicans were finally able to take power with the governor's mansion as well as the state legislature. And what they wanted to do was to ensure the Federalists never came back, is that they began drawing up the districts in conspicuously odd ways, ignoring common sense boundaries, especially on counties or townships. Now, the interesting thing is the governor, Elbridge, and his name is pronounced Gary, even though we say gerrymandering. I'm not going to fight that. I'll call it gerrymandering. In Massachusetts, they'll call it gerrymandering because it started in Massachusetts and they want to respect Governor Gary. But he actually opposed it. He wanted to allow, as equitable as possible, a series of districts to be drawn, but he ended up signing off on it, and his name was attached to it. It is a problem. I do recognize, I mean, especially Kevin Kiley, one of the best congressmen we have. He's been active on the right issues, getting results, fighting Gavin Newsom on many issues. He's been a great fighter for ours. His district, there is a concern if Newsom is able to push through Newsom mandering, that Kiley's district will disappear. We might only have Ken Calvert's district and Vince Vaughn's district remaining intact if they try to push through what they want to do. But I don't like Kevin Kiley's approach, which is to nationalize a limitation on who can draw districts. I think legislature should do it. I think there should be those rules that I mentioned, but legislature should do it. But if the voters chose an independent commission, I don't think you should mess with that either. I think just how the districts are drawn is appropriate. There is a lawsuit that's emerged out of Louisiana that may strike down that portion or that interpretation of the Voting Rights Act requiring those majority-minority districts. And it's very likely that they will strike down that provision or that precedent. What that means, this is putting aside the gerrymandering issue. This goes, it doesn't put it away, because you look at Louisiana, you look at Mississippi, you look at Alabama, they forced those states a few years ago to draw another majority black district, and especially Louisiana and Alabama, and they're still gerrymanders. They still disregard all of these natural boundaries. So this is a very applicable case, especially to this issue. I think the courts will strike down that broad misunderstanding of the law. That's not only going to allow Texas to redraw its districts, but you're going to see a lot of majority minority districts disappear across the South. Atlanta has a lot of them, including southeastern Georgia, where I can't remember that congressman off the top of my head, but he's had that district for a long time, but it's very close to being even blue and red. Every time it looks to me like it should be flipping back to the Republicans, but it never quite does. It's a majority black district, or they've tried to do it that way. There's some people estimating as many as 20 to 25 more seats will become more open to a Republican winning. This is an excellent turnaround. I can't stress enough how special it is to finally see Republicans fighting. You have to take the territory where you can. And again, Trump deserves a lot of credit for this. He has been leading the charge on this. He encouraged Texas to review this. And now Florida. Governor DeSantis is looking at redrawing the districts yet again. I think he deserves more credit than he's getting. I mentioned this in the article. He's the one who pushed aside. The legislature gave him a Voting Rights Act friendly district map for the congressional seats. And in Florida, they had something called the Jacksonville gerrymander. It took Leon County, and then it had a thin strip of land stretching to Jacksonville. Those are the two majority Black and, of course, Democrat sections there in northern Florida. DeSantis said, we're not going to do that. We're going to be race neutral. What a concept. Why don't we just respect Americans as they are and allow them to vote for their legislators as such? And the district disappeared. DeSantis was able to, it was going to be trying to make sure I do the math properly. It was going to be like a 16-12, 16 Republican, 12 Democrat map. He says, no, we can do better than that. And he drew a 20 Republican, 8 Democrat map, 4 seats. Republicans won the House in 2022 by a 4-seat majority. So DeSantis was fundamental to that change. But the attitude of, no, we're going to push for as much of a victory as we can. We got the power. Let's use it to the fullest extent. Now Governor Abbott is doing that. I think they'll be successful. One of the benefits of Texas redrawing the map that's been proposed, they are more compact. There are some sections that still have elongated connections, but they're trying to keep them closer to each other geographically. One of the benefits of this, Jasmine Crockett will lose her seat. And that's going to be a wonderful win for everybody. I think even secretly, Democrats want that. Jasmine Crockett is embarrassing. She is a loudmouth that is just fomenting all of the wrong sides on every issue. She hurts the brand even more. She's tactless. She's classless. She's clueless. She has no business being a congresswoman, and she'll lose her seat. You have older Democrat congressmen in the Texas delegation. They're starting to threaten younger members. Don't you dare try to challenge us. And presumably, the way Democratic Party politics still works, they're going to back up the older members, the ones that have more seniority. That's how Nancy Pelosi has run things, and she's going to keep it that way. But that's going to be a big win for us there. Indiana, Missouri, even South Carolina has stepped into this discussion. They have a terrible gerrymander in South Carolina so that Jim Clyburn can have a district. But this is Voting Rights Act abuse. And part of it, too, understandably, is they don't want to deal with the lawsuits. When Texas drew the original set of districts in 2021, a whole bunch of lawsuits ensued. So that's part of the reason Republicans have been very skittish. They allow for these majority-minority gerrymanders so that they can minimize the lawsuits. DeSantis said, we're going to be race neutral, and he won. Every lawsuit challenge to his Florida map failed. He succeeded. And the argument that Abbott and DeSantis have that's even stronger for them doing another redistricting is their populations have increased considerably. Blue state conservatives have fled to their states. The populations have changed dramatically. So it's appropriate for them to redraw the districts again. And President Trump brought this up, and I think it was worthwhile that he did. The 2020 census was very flawed because it counted illegals. There was one estimate, this was 2019 and early 2020, Rhode Island should have lost its second congressional seat, and yet somehow it didn't. On the other hand, it looked like Texas was supposed to gain 4 seats. It looked like they only gained 2. Florida gained only 1. But the population increase suggested they should have gained more. Why did that not happen? Because they're counting the illegal alien population. This is not acceptable. It's skewing the electoral college delegation unfairly towards the blue states. So a new census, striking down the misinterpretation of the Voting Rights Act, plus the aggressive push to redistrict by Texas, Florida, Indiana, Missouri, South Carolina. Kentucky is looking at doing the same thing. You're going to be, if all of this is successful, you're going to see a strong Republican firewall for the foreseeable future in the House of Representatives. This is very exciting. Republicans are finally fighting back. And the truth is, why are the margins so close? Why have they been so close in 22 and even 24? Because Democrats have been gerrymandering. They have been playing the race game. They have forced through ugly districts, which have allowed them to keep the numbers down for Republicans. It wasn't like this 20 years ago.
Governor Hairdo, that beer battered onion ring that Californians call a governor, was quick to say, oh, this is unprecedented. They're not even waiting 10 years for the next census. They have done that how many times now? They'll redistrict just when they get one of their boys in office. The whole Democrat Party will start this whole redistricting thing. They don't wait the 10 years. They don't wait for a new census to come out one bit. It's all such an arrogant lie.
Yes.
It's like they forget there's actually video and recordings. It's like but they know that the media will never cover it. They know that the media will never show those things. But now there's alternative media, and we're getting this stuff out, this kind of information out. Arthur, you would have never been called by NBC Nightly News and had been on their show to explain all of this, not one bit. We have a voice now, even though we're still obviously being censored. Like I said, they had to actually block out the word Democrat and Democratic and redistricting in that piece that we showed there, because they knew that YouTube would pull it down otherwise. That's bad, but we're winning. We now have a way to get information out to the rest of the nation who don't rely on ABC, CBS, NBC, and CNN. And that's encouraging. That's awesome to see. But what are the hopes in California that because Governor Hairdo is literally saying we're going to be a counteraction to Texas. Texas redistricts. We'll make sure that Democrats only win in California, so we'll cancel out all of their votes. That's the tactic he's been taking in his presentation to the media.
Despite how devious and disgusting and really corrupt it is, you have to give Democrats a little bit of credit. They are very ballsy in how they want to grab power, and they don't let anything stop them. Republicans are just finally learning from them, following their example. Now, I think, and I explored this at length too, I think Governor Newsom is going to be facing a lot more obstacles than people realize. I've had a couple of people in California telling me, you've got to sound the alarm on this. But here's the thing. The state legislature has been on recess. They're not coming back, I think, until next week. They have a very short window to put together a bill, an initiative of some kind, and then send it out to voters, because the voters have to vote on it. This is a vote. We voted to have redistricting done by an independent commission. If they want to change it or put forward a new map, we have to vote for it. And right away, you're going to have all kinds of legal problems. I can't imagine the number of lawsuits that are going to be filed. And here's something, this is an angle I don't think a lot of people are considering. Even Democrat congressmen, I mean, already, because California lost a congressional seat, you were going to have incumbents that were going to end up fighting with each other for a seat at the table. In LA County, we lost the congressional seat. They took it away from us. You had Lucille Roybal, Allard, and then you had Alan Lowenthal. Both
and that was in very conservative Orange County.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, say that again.
Orange County.
What about
Which
it?
was always very conservative, but then next
now it's so liberal, and part of Lowenthal's district bled into Orange County. That's correct. Right. But what happened is those two districts were fused into one, and the two of them just retired. And then Robert Garcia, who is now the new wannabe champion or dissident against Trump. I mean, he's just a joke, but he then stepped in and took the district from them. But if there's redistricting again, what's going to happen? How many of these incumbents, even if Republicans aren't in the picture, they might have to challenge each other. They're going to be on the same turf. They're going to be in different areas. That's something they don't want to deal with either. So everybody has their individual selfish interest. They don't care about the party. They just care about themselves. I can tell you, the Laura Friedman, who replaced Adam Schiff, is she going to have to then, run against the lady Luz Rivas, who took the place of Tony Cardenas? They would like to avoid that as well. Not only that, but as I said earlier, the California map has already been heavily gerrymandered as it is. And then on top of that, you've got a very short window. Then they have to get the voters of California to agree to changing the maps. And the polling suggests they're not really on board with this. So that's another issue. And then even then, if it passes, you've got, what is the current census? What are the numbers? The districts have to be equal. And you see, this again shows the larger problem with an independent commission, because it's not transparent. They don't have the immediate access to the data needed to draw proper districts, whereas doing it through a legislative process, it's more open, it's more transparent. The community at large gets to comment on it. Even if they succeed in getting a map, putting it to the voters, and they vote for it, I foresee there's going to be a lot of lawsuits that will stall its implementation. And the 26 election, the current districts will remain, even if they're successful to get them changed down the line. But let's not also, we have to keep in mind too, Governor Abbott has said, look, if California threatens to take 5, then we'll take 10. And Governor Abbott suggested that they could gerrymander to have 10 more Republican friendly districts. On top of that, you look at, I forgot about Ohio. Ohio has to redistrict. It's in their process. If they can't get a bipartisan map passed, this was a very interesting situation. If that doesn't get passed, then they have to go with a map drawn by the judges, and then they have to come back in 4 years and try again to redistrict. So this is really interesting in Ohio. They allow for multiple, map drawings. So that has to happen again. It's very likely they're going to add 3 more Republican seats. No matter what California might try to do, let's say they get rid of all the Republicans, God forbid. So that's 9 more seats, but Texas has 5, Ohio will have 3, Florida can add 4 more, 3 or 4. And then you've got the other states I mentioned adding 1. They'll still have a net. They'll still have a net increase over whatever California's do. Maryland is already gerrymandered beyond its bounds. New York, it can't do it. They've already faced multiple court orders. Illinois is already gerrymandered. Democrats have gerrymandered themselves into a very tight spot, and they can't get out of it. Republicans are on the win. And then, of course, there's the Voting Rights Act being struck down. And then there's the recensus. And I hope that's successful. That's going to be a tougher call because that'll rearrange all 435 seats. But I think it needs to be done. It's not right that the census counted illegals. This has been going on for decades. It needs to stop. And I'm very grateful for Trump taking the lead on that.
And he did post about that. The president did post about that, saying, I'm well aware, and it's not going to happen. We'll redo it. We'll do it early. We'll do another census, and we'll take care of this right now, and illegals will not be counted.
Yes.
I hope that happens. It's an extremely expensive process, obviously, and we're in such a precarious position right now, financially and all over the world, and all the turmoil going on. President Trump's a little busy.
Yeah.
But I have friends on our side saying, oh, Trump needs to focus on California. Trump needs to fix California. I don't know if that's in his plans. I really think at this point it's becoming apparent to me that he's saying, California, you better start taking care of yourself. Californians, Republicans, conservatives, you better start stepping up, because I'm going to concentrate on winning elections for conservatives, despite what California does. Seems to be what's going on.
I want to speak to that, because with Corinne Rankin getting elected as chair, and we lost 3 congressional seats in 24. This is embarrassing. Pennsylvania gained congressional seats. There has been no active effort here to fight this. You didn't see the California Republican Party fighting this redistricting effort. I don't see them taking the lead to push back on Newsom, aside from Trump says something, Trump does something, and then the California Republican leadership says, yeah, Trump, we agree with you.
Conservative, as you mentioned earlier, Congressman Kevin Kiley is the only one talking about it that I've heard of. I haven't heard Tom McClintock. I haven't heard anyone else talking about it. He's it. But that's because, as you said, if this goes through, if Governor Herridge makes this happen, he's going to be out of a job. He's going to lose that district.
Yep.
So of course he's speaking up about it, but it's appalling. I'm not hearing anyone talking about it. Why is that?
What I see is just, I think California Republicans, the party leaders, the top brass, the establishment, the elected officials, they've gotten so stuck in this Stockholm syndrome of being victims, of being the underdogs, of just getting comfortable with losing. And I think that, it's just been a very sad track record. You don't see a lot of congressional seats flipping back to Republicans.
I have a different take on that.
Look at 2026. Michelle Steele is not going to run again. She filed to run again, and now she's not. Mike Garcia is not going to run for his seat. And John Duarte gave up too. I mean, well, and he's kind of liberal. I spoke to people in the Valley. They're happy for him to go. They think he was too liberal anyway. But it's like there's this cynicism of, well, we're not going to win anyway. Once it goes blue, it doesn't go back. You know,
this is what I've experienced in my, as a delegate with California's Republican Party, and I'm going to be at the convention this coming September, Lord willing, so I can vote. I get this very strong impression that they enjoy being in second place and they don't have a problem with it because it's easy to fundraise. Oh, help me fight against Pelosi. Help me fight against Weiner. Help me fight against Schiff. Send me some money. Send me some donations. Oh, and we'll take them on. It's easy. They're not leading. They're begging. They've turned it into a charitable ask all the time. That seems to be all that propels and powers that damn party. Our party. And I hate it.
It seems almost like a diversion, but it really does build on the gerrymandering problem, which they will not fight, and they don't properly provide commissioners on our side to properly drive the districts. But I mean, Matt Shoup, here we're getting into inside baseball here, but he's a consultant. He was the chairman of the Santa Clara County Republican Central Committee. I mean, that's as blue as it gets, right? But why do they raise all this money? Because it's paying consultants. It is absolutely, it's a charity. It's masquerading as a charity, but it pays fees. It pays consultants. Louise Bueller lived off money. I've mentioned Matt Shoup. As much as Charlie Munger Jr. was a liberal, at least he was trying to win elections. He was in Santa Clara County. I believe he was the chair, or he was certainly the guy providing the money. I'm not saying I want his ideology to come back, but at least an attitude of we want to win elections was there. And Charles Munger Jr. wants to defend the independent commission along with Schwarzenegger. I get it that they're liberal Republicans, but they are in a good position to help kill the Democrats' proposed gerrymander initiative. And that's going to be in our favor. And hey, if we can at least stop the bleeding, that's a win. That helps President Trump. And let's not forget, Trump did campaign in California in 24. I loved it. He went to Coachella. There were some swingable districts there. I think
that was very, very smart.
Ken Calvert needed the boost, and it helped him. I think Raul Ruiz, he's in that Democrat seat, the 25th. That is such a weird. You want to talk about a gerrymander? He's got Imperial County, Riverside County, and I guess a little bit of Mono. It's so ugly. I mean, it used to be Imperial County, and then there was another gerrymander. Juan Vargas had that part of San Diego, then a little strip along the border, and then Imperial County. It's like, again, the gerrymandering continued with this convention. But Raul Ruiz was in danger. We've got that pastor in Imperial County who got elected to the state assembly seat. That was an earthquake. If grassroots local Republicans can build on that, I think seeing that Latino vote turning red will flip a lot of districts, but everybody has to be their own Republican party. The state party is useless for sure.
It fully is. It fully is. I hate it. I'm so sick of it. I'm so done with it. But
Jeff Gonzalez, I hate not knowing names. Jeff Gonzalez, he's the pastor who won that seat in Imperial County. So that's
can you give us a light at the end of the tunnel in this whole thing that Newsom is trying to pull off and all the rest of the demons?
The light at the tunnel is Donald Trump in the White House winning across the country, the ICE reforms, the illegals fleeing the state of California, the increased victories, cracking down on government abuses, the bureaucracy. That will help California in the long term. But I think that a cultural shift needs to take place. I think that this initiative fight will embolden Republicans. I think we can defeat Newsom's Newsom-mander grab. I think
Isn't it already illegal for illegals to vote?
It is, and it's illegal for them to be counted. And finally, Trump's thinking about that.
Jerry Brown made it legal for illegals to get driver's licenses, and then did the motor voter law. You're registered to vote, or you actually have a driver's license. You can be registered to vote automatically, no questions asked.
But
And we've
again,
got at least
know-
2 million illegals who are doing exactly that. And these paper ballots that are going out, these mail-in ballots,
Oh,
how
brother.
4 or 5 of them showing up at one house, and they're filling them all out. And
I got 2
I
mailed to
don't
my
see a
house.
light at the end of the tunnel for California. You got 2? I got a friend who got 5, and he's been in the same house
Man.
for 20-something years. And it's just him. And of course, he did the right thing. Only used 1, didn't use them all. I'm guaranteeing you, those who want to see the freebies continue flowing will take every advantage, thinking they're doing their part to keep the Democrats in power, because that's all they care about. Power.
See, they get it. The Democrats have this rush. They want to hold on to power as much as they can, and Republicans are finally starting to do that in their respective states. Regarding the illegal situation, again, thank God for Trump. The DOJ is now suing states that are not cleaning up their voter rolls. I know there's been a cleanup initiative in California to remove inactive voters. I've been seeing this on X. There's been reports.
That's what I was looking for.
thousands.
Something like that. That's what I was looking for, because these Democrats are 98% of them are attorneys. That's the only thing they'll respond to is legal action. And they need to be called on the carpet. Not only that, people need to be doing the perp walk, as far as I'm concerned.
Yes.
Because this is downright treasonous, messing around with our constitutionally provided and protected election system. And how does the president say, you're letting illegals vote? You're going to jail for that, because you not only are allowing it, but you made it happen for them.
Mm-hmm.
That's got to be called. They've got to be called to the rug for it. They got to pay the price for that. And until they do, it's just going to continue happening. But you're telling me now, this is great information. The DOJ, Pam Bondi, is actually prosecuting in California. This is happening.
She's going after the voter rolls. She's doing this in other states. I know that. I think Harmeet Dillon in the Civil Rights Division specifically is investigating this issue. This is becoming, I've been seeing news reports that inactive voters are being removed from voter rolls in San Diego County, LA County, and in Orange County. And I know that in the 24 election, where a lot of elections were decided on the margin, a lot of viewers or a lot of observers were not allowed into the Orange County Register at one point. That was an extremely suspicious decision. There was allegations that 180,000 votes should not have been counted at all. There are serious problems here with voter integrity, and it can't be ignored. And I certainly hope that we need something more than consent decrees, which counties obey and then ignore. There has to be a thorough cleanup. Kevin Kiley for the win. He has introduced election reforms dealing with requiring efficient and speedy count of ballots as well, and also voter ID. Those kind of things are coming down the pike too.
Second, because I'm going to ask you, can you still hold
I see you.
Those messages right now. We just missed an important part that was so. If
your face is a little pixelated, the voice and the words aren't matching. You froze a little bit, but I see you moving now. It's matching up pretty well. Did I freeze up on you?
Well, you're still halting and freezing.
Damn it. I'm not getting any negative signals on my end. I used to get in.
Yeah, I'm seeing the messages here, but you're not on your end. And I don't know why. Yeah. So if you can share it with us again, I sure would appreciate it. And you started talking about Kevin Kiley and San Diego and so on. If you could
sure.
That, and I'll cut this in post and when
you want to do like a cut or something for me to start, or because you're the editor. Exactly. Go ahead.
Take 2 with Arthur Shopper.
It's fine.
I blame it on the stroke. Blame it on the stroke, buddy. My computer must have had a stroke too.
The computer had a stroke. There you go.
5, 4, 3. Okay, Art, give us some light at the end of the tunnel, please, for California. California, forget the rest of the nation. This is where I live. This is where you live. This is our home. Give us some
Correct.
light.
I think that President Trump's aggressive crackdown on illegal immigration is assisting us as illegals flee the state. That's more people who shouldn't be voting, who won't be able to vote in the first place. I've seen entire cities in Orange and LA counties that are very quiet now, that have high illegal populations, including Huntington Park, which is almost half illegal. The streets have been very quiet, not a lot of business. That's good news for us in the long term if they leave and don't come back. I've seen news reports indicating that inactive voters are being actively removed from voter rolls and registrar records in Orange County, LA County, San Diego County. Those are the three most populous in the state. That's a big win for us because those mail-in ballots rely on those voter rolls, many of which are inactive. My father, who passed away 4 years ago, his name was still on the voter rolls in Los Angeles County, even though he had already moved, for example. So, somebody was getting a ballot at that condominium. For example, I think you mentioned earlier, a friend of yours got 5 ballots. There was an apartment in San Pedro, California, where 80 ballots were mailed, and it was attributed to just a clerical error. But we're talking about our elections here. We're talking about widespread fraud problems. But that is one light at the end of the tunnel. The other one, back to Congressman Kevin Kiley. He has introduced legislation to streamline election counting, to require an expedited count so it doesn't take 35 days as it does in California. To do that, you'd have to limit the mail-in periods. Texas, they allow for early voting at specific times, and then they stop early voting, I think, a week before the election day. That ensures that ballots aren't floating around for weeks and months afterwards. I do support federal legislation that will streamline this process, and that's appropriate because federal elections should have a federal process and a federal set of guidelines enacted by Congress. That is appropriate. If I know Arizona has 2 different sets of rules depending on people voting for state officials versus federal officials. They can require ID or not. It would be nice to streamline these processes for sure. But for California, it has to be from the outside. Legal action, federal executive enforcement, that's what's going to turn things around.
It has to be from the outside. Yeah, that's what I figured, because our own elected representatives on the right are doing nothing about it, not even talking about it, except for Kevin Kiley.
It is disappointing. And then you've got Carl DeMaio, the state assemblyman, who has actively sounded the alarm on a lot of the problems and the corruption that they're engaging in. He and Bill Asaley, before he became U.S. Attorney in L.A., they repeatedly forced votes. That's the kind of aggressive approach we need to see. And it's too bad that only those 2 were doing it in the state legislature, and Kiley is showing that kind of creativity at the federal level. More Republicans need to start doing that. And, well, we have to depend on people from other states for that for the time being.
Can federal tell a state, yeah, you got to quit that whole mail-in ballot crap? You can have your absentee ballots. That makes sense. We got to be able to include and that was all originally set up for our, my military brothers and sisters who are serving and who could not be in their home districts to vote. That was also set up for people who are, shut-ins. And then they started doing the ballot harvesting, and the Democrats did. And can the federal level tell the state level, knock that off? You're obviously cheating with it, and you're using it, and it's not working. Well, it's working for you, but it's not working for everyone. So quit doing it. Can the federal?
I believe they should. I think it's pretty clear. Article 1, Section 8, the enumerated powers includes the Postal Service. So federal government has a say in what happens in the mail systems, and they should be able to crack down on fraudulent or deceptive practices, especially when it comes to voting. That is an essential authority that Congress needs to assert. They should have a right to provide guidelines, regulations, and delineate what's acceptable and not when it comes to voting by mail. that's an appropriate measure to take for sure.
I hope you're right. I hope you're right, because that was obviously with the whole COVID shutdown thing.
Yes.
Acting because people are in fear, acting like it's because they care about us, so they want us to be able to vote and not put our lives in danger by going out and being around people who might have a flu virus. So so they were able to sell it. They didn't even actually bother selling it. They just did it and said, this is the reason we're doing it. Well, there is no COVID scamdemic going on right now, so why are you still doing it? Because it works. Because it works for them. This is good. I'm glad I had you on. I'm glad we got to talk about this, and I hope it gave you some clarity. If you're wondering what's a redistricting and a gerrymander, is that like a salamander? What is that? I hope you understand better now. And thanks to Arthur Shopper, who, by the way, I strongly suggest you start reading his stuff and then following him and lifting him up and encouraging him too, just by sharing his articles and so on. I know you've got a blog spot. Tell us about that. Tell us where else.
ashopper1.blogspot.com. That's my personal blog.
ashopper1,
yes.
the number 1 .blogspot.com.
Yep. So I went along with that. I've stayed with it. I've also I'm very blessed and favored. I am published on Town Hall, American Greatness, Canada Free Press, and also American Thinker. They've recently started publishing my work. It's been really exciting. I've been able to really.
That is cool. Good on you. Congratulations, and hopefully soon the California Post.
Yes, I love that New York Post is expanding. That's exactly what I was thinking. We need them here. I'd love to be a part of that movement for sure.
That would be cool. I'd love to see that for you. All right, my friend. I will talk to you later. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us here on Do
Thanks
Not
for having me,
Talk.
Charlie.
Well, by the way, please like this show while we're talking about it right now. Just hit that like button. Go ahead. Thank you. The reason why I ask you to do that is it breaks down the algorithms and all that, and it gets, good heavens, believe me. We on the media side of things, on the conservative side of things, are fighting a battle you don't even know about when it comes to censoring, shutdown, shadow banning. Facebook deleted every single one of my pages over a month ago. Everyone gone. Boom. 40,000 people. Suddenly I'm gone. I'm out of their lives. Then Instagram, which is owned by Facebook. So I don't, that's, one way I could get word out about these shows with Arthur and so on. Now I can't. I don't have that. So like right here on Rumble or YouTube or wherever you're watching it right now, like this show, please. And follow the channel, especially at rumble.com/do not talk. Rumble.com/do not talk. You'll be helping more than you know. Share these shows too. Share them. There you go. Pretty simple, right? And you can follow me no matter what social media does at CharLeeSimons.com. You can also help me financially, and I sure would appreciate that. That's all at my website. You can contact me directly. You can even book a guest slot on the show, but check out the merchandise store. Hit merch store, that tab at the top. Buy yourself a shirt, cup, hat, something, and you'll be helping this show, and you'll be getting something nice about it too. All very fine quality stuff, really good quality stuff. I'm a stickler for that. So that's CharLeeSimons.com, CharLeeSimons.com. May God bless you and keep you. May God bless America. But most importantly, America bless God.